Good morning, good afternoon, whatever time of day it is that you are listening, folks. Thank you very, very much for listening today. Today is the 24th of January, year of our Lord 2020-25. Welcome to yet another edition of the Coping Hour, hosted by Nicholas Hinkle, a.k.a. Motown Noah. Got a good show for you guys today. I'm hoping that I don't have to do, if you missed the previous episode, I taped a 90-minute show. And then as soon as it was done, long story short, it was unusable. The audio was not good, and so I had to... What ended up, I don't think I said this in the show, so I did the show, and then once I realized it was not usable, I got so upset, I just went to bed. And then I laid in bed for like 15 minutes and was like, this is bothering me so much, I'm not going to be able to sleep if I know that there's not a show coming out in the morning. So I got out of bed, and then I did the, sub 60 minutes, whatever it ended up being. So I'm hoping that does not become an issue today. Here's a nice little piece of news for you guys up top. Have you seen this? Have you heard? Well, it's my algorithm. You haven't seen this. You haven't heard about this. But I've talked a little bit about this recently, that the alt-right pipeline is kind of getting me again. A lot of military stuff, a lot of guns, a lot of anti-immigrant rhetoric. And I was like, I'm just going to ride this out. I'm just going to see where it takes me. I was like, but I'm clocking it, so I was like, I know that I'm going to be safe. It's over. Yeah, I successfully filtered all of it out. And so now my YouTube shorts are just... It's actually kind of ironic. So I went from conservative grifters being like, there should be no brown people in the United States, to now all I get are Middle Eastern dudes making kebabs and putting meats inside of not tortillas but dough, and then wrapping it up and fucking frying it, and then it always looks good, I guess. There's a lot of shorts about ASMR cooking, a lot of shorts about Tony Allen's podcast, that the one that he did with KD, and that's basically it. So I'm like, all right, so I'm out of there. It couldn't have come at a moment sooner, honestly. The last episode that you heard from me was the day that Donald Trump got re-inaugurated. Maybe we'll tackle some of that stuff at the end of today's episode. Use the timestamps to your advantage. Did we get there on that one? Did we end up talking about that in this episode? I have no idea right now. But it seems which there's some irony in that. I mean, a guy, the richest man in the world, does a Hitler salute and doesn't get a fucking soup can thrown at his head. And then that's also the same timeline. That's the same point in time where my algorithm is all right, we're going to chill with all of this, right-leaning shit. And let's give this guy some food. I think this guy just needs some food in his life. Yeah, I don't know. Guess maybe I did. Shout out to YouTube's algorithm for that. But folks, what do I want to talk about today? Well, there's one main thing that's been on my mind. And I think we've spent a month talking about this. We're going to do it again. I want to talk about the trade deadline. We are, 2-3 weeks away from that happening? I think it's February 6th this year. And so I've just been racking my brain, what does the ideal candidate look like for the Detroit Pistons? Because I've also been thinking a lot about the bad boys recently. And how do we reclaim that glory? If you want to do the going to work guys in 2004, sure, we can talk about them if you want. But I'm thinking specifically about the bad boys, because for no reason at all, as of late, there has been a championship-sized hole in my heart, and I've just been wondering how I can fill that void. And I think that the closest that we will get to doing that right now, well, the Red Wings actually have been on a heater since they fired their coach, and now Larkin is good again. Patrick Kane has had some good games. The Wings, I think they won 7 in a row at one point, so they've been good. But the Pistons, yeah, I don't know, man. You beat the Hawks by 10, and so they are now, as of this taping, the Pistons are in the driver's seat for the 6th seed. Whoa, we're out of the play-in. We're just talking we're just in the playoffs, dog. Okay, all right, that's some action. That's some action. We're a little bit past the middle of January. We're going into February, and we're talking about the Pistons being a 6th seed. Whoa, impressed. Well, about 2 games over 500? Okay. Now, we also received a new piece of information about the Pistons and what they plan to do with the trade deadline. What a herky-jerk conversation this has become. We went from the Pistons are probably not going to do anything to the Pistons are probably going to do something to no, they're not, to yes, they are, to no, they're not. And folks, would you believe it? We're back to they're probably going to do something. Probably going to do something. They are either open to being buyers or open to being, or rather lending a helping hand in facilitating whatever the Jimmy Butler trade ends up looking like. And then maybe that's the piece of it that comes first is they help facilitate that deal. And then they use whatever they get from that to go get somebody that improves their chances at succeeding in the playoffs. If not just, I would say, I think if the, let me say this out loud. I don't know how I feel about this. If the Pistons make a drastic move for like a guy at the deadline, is that to ensure that they make the playoffs or to ensure that they have a chance at winning a series? The reason I'm framing it that way is because I'm just curious to get into the headspace of like a Trajan Langdon or like a JB Bickerstaff, because all signs indicate that they are, as of course they should be, enthusiastic about what the timeline on this thing has been. And how they're definitely a few steps ahead of schedule, I would say, in terms of the wins and losses columns. And I think that you're also starting to see this Cade Cunningham the guy was on Inside the NBA talking about, like, I'm trying to be an all-star. Dog. Talking about, like, the rivalry with Jalen Green. Talking about what the Pistons hope to achieve if they do make the playoffs, which, as I mentioned at the top of this segment, the Pistons are currently in the 6th seed as of this taping. So what does something like that look like? Well, folks, it's not a numbers program, but I really tried to do some research here. Because I've tried to identify, like, okay, so when I watch the Pistons this year versus what the numbers would tell you, what are the things that stick out the most? And as my life as a Pistons fan has just revolved around watching a group of guys that can't get to the line. That's been my biggest gripe forever. Anytime I talk about Blake Griffin's time in Detroit, if you've been around for a while, I've given the spiel 100 times. Sorry to be a broken record, but to me, the most valuable thing about Blake Griffin's time in Detroit was that we finally had a guy who could get a whistle and who could get to the free throw line. It's like a foreign concept for Pistons fans for the last 20 years. Even Cade does not get free throw attempts. But let me tell you something about Cade. I unearthed something that I think you should know. Cade Cunningham averages the lowest number of free throw attempts per game for any player averaging at least 25 points a game. Now, technically, Cade is at like 24.6, but shut the hell up. How about that? We're just going to make it an even 25. And he's averaging under 5 attempts a game at 4.6. If that is not the quintessential embodiment of ethical buckets, then I don't know what is. So let's zoom out on that. Okay, so it's just Cade that's not getting to the line. No, dog, it's not. Because the Pistons rank 27th in the NBA in free throws attempted at just over 20. And then on the flip side of that, because this is what I'm talking about when I say that, things that I'm trying to identify to like pick the perfect candidate for who the Pistons trade for. Because if you look at it, the free throw disparity is always what pisses me off. And even though this wouldn't indicate that it's too, let me just read it to you. So if they're 27th in free throws attempted as a team, they are 21st in the league in free throws allowed, free throw attempts like allowed at 22.4. So the disparity through the first half of the season is they're only, what is that, -2? Okay, that's actually not that big of a deal. It's not that bad. But you're still at the bottom of the pack in both of those categories, right? You also have a team who is 5th in personal fouls, committed almost 900 of them this year. They are also 28th in the league in steals, tied with Brooklyn. So if you want to call them 29th, you can. Only averaging 7.3 a game. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so our best player can't get a whistle. He can't get to the line. That's not his fault, by the way. I don't think that's his fault. He just doesn't get the calls. The team on aggregate does not get to the line. They also commits enough fouls that the other team always gets to the line. and they can never steal a possession. Nope, I didn't mean to make a little pun there, steal a possession. The point was that they don't get steals. So I'm looking at this and I'm like, okay, so the ideal candidate, if you're the Detroit Pistons, is a guy who generates turnovers and a guy who can get to the line. Well, so what does that look like? Well, the truth is that like a real best case scenario, if like assets weren't part of the question, this was 2K, I'm getting Tyrese Maxey. That's what I want. That's who I want to be next to Cade Cunningham. And then you can do whatever you want with Ivy. I don't care. That's not real. That's not going to happen. If the Sixers are sitting, they're going to have a sit-down meeting with Joel Embiid, I guess, to just talk to him about his health. What does that look like? Love to be a fly on the wall for that conversation. Sixers brass sitting down in a conference room with Joel Embiid and just being like, cut it out. Stop it. Because at this point, it's not going to get better. The only way that and look, I'm not a doctor, but the guy is smoked his meniscus in the same knee twice. And so you at that point have to do the Lonzo thing and just punt on an entire year and just get a new one, or we just at that point and it's just over. I don't know. Well, the Sixers stinks, and he has not helped that at all. So I have no idea. So I'm only saying that to say like, well, okay, if the Embiid party is over, the Sixers aren't just going to give up Tyrese Maxey to like recoup the value that you lose with Joel Embiid, like not playing anymore. Or maybe he'll just be awesome again at some point. I don't know. Who knows? But the point being, the Maxey thing's not going to happen. Guy who generates steals and a guy who can get to the line. Well, let's reverse engineer this thing. First guy that came to mind was Danny Avdija. I like it. Yeah. That's not bad. But probably not. I don't know that, like, if you're Portland, you could sell high. Danny's played so well for the Blazers this year. And, like, what are they even doing? So it's like, well, you have something that you could get shit in return. So, but it's probably not. It's probably not him. Keon Ellis, the guy that we just kind of keep whispering about on this show. A couple of you guys have pointed him out in the comments. I think you guys are spot on. High steal efficiency, but he doesn't get to the line. He just doesn't get to the line. So I don't think you're really going to be able to train him to do that. But he's a good defender, though. And so this is one of those guys that if you're a Pistons fan, you want Keon Ellis. Okay, well, he's going to get steals. He's going to jump into some passing lanes, do all that shit on the defensive end. And then you would just bank on, I don't know, Cade getting calls. And then this isn't a problem anymore. And then we don't have to think about it. Okay, well, let's put a pin in Keon Ellis. I'm going to keep saying this next guy. I'm going to keep saying Cason Wallace. I'm going to keep saying him. I'm going to keep saying him until Oklahoma City does something. Because, folks, I got to tell you, I learned this today in my research. I learned that of the top 5 players in the NBA in terms of, like, total steals, top 5 players, 3 of them in the top 5 are Oklahoma City Thunder. Number 1 is Dyson Daniels at 118 steals this season. Number 2, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 88. So Dyson Daniels is, it's not even close. He's 30 steals ahead of SGA at number 2. You got Jalen Williams at 74 and Cason Wallace at 73. Then you have Jokic at 70. So 3 of the top 5 leaders in total steals in the NBA are members of the Oklahoma City Thunder. Let's go get Cason Wallace. Let's just fucking do it. Doesn't shoot that many free throws, but like, you know what I mean? Just do it. Get it over with. So who do we got after that? Another one that, you put a pin in him. Man, this is the one that hurts the most. Because I was looking at his contract. The reason I don't know to say who it is. It's Trey Murphy. The Pelicans fire sale hasn't happened yet. And that hasn't happened yet. We got to be close, though, right? Well, it's like, okay, so Trey Murphy averaging 21 a game, averaging 1 steal, 5 rebounds, and 9 3-pointers a game, attempted at least, on 45, 36, and 90. Yeah, he can't be traded until July 1st, though. So that's not going to happen. And by that point, Cade's extension will kick in on that day, I'm pretty sure. And so it's like, all right, well, probably not Trey Murphy. Shout out to the Pelicans. Not shout out to the Pelicans, but I guess shout out to the fans because nobody can take him away from you this year. That's cool. You don't have shit else going on, but you have Trey Murphy, and that's cool. Everybody wants him. The dream scenario, I think it's Norman Powell for Detroit. Having a career year for the Clippers. A team, by the way, that is in the same position as the Pistons. As of this taping, both teams in the 6th seed. Clippers have, I believe, 2 more wins. And you credit the Clippers for kind of throwing together this like ragtag team of just like role players. Kevin Porter Jr. thing, like, ugh, gross. What do they do? Do they bring in like Bradley Beal and Powell goes to the Suns or something? Like, what does that look like? I texted Alex Hoops about this, and he said that he sneaky thinks that Norman Powell is like not untouchable, but like, you know what I mean? Like the amount of shit that you would have to give to the Clippers because of how well he's playing, it's just the juice just isn't going to be worth the squeeze. The guy is a year from now will be on an expiring contract and will be like 32 years old. And so my logic was a guy averaging 24 points a game, a steal and a half, round up a little bit, 5 free throw attempts a game on 49, 44, 83. Sell high if you're the Clippers. It may kind of like tank your season. It wouldn't tank your season because the shit that, again, you would get in exchange for him, I don't know. And if you're Detroit, is that worth it? It's a vet. It's a guy who can score. It's a guy who this season, when you need it most, give him the ball. He's going to go get you a bucket. But it's like, if you're Detroit, is that what you want? Because that's not the way that we've been framing this. It's a guy that, I did not start this segment by saying the Pistons need a guy who they can give the ball to and go get a bucket. Dog, that's number 2. That's Cade. We don't need somebody to do that. We have that already. We need a guy who can get steals and can get to the line. That's Norman Powell. And all of the other shit is like secondary and tertiary, whatever, synonyms. That's not happening, though. It's not going to happen. You're not going to get Norman Powell. And so outside of that, it's like, I don't know. You guys keep trying to fearmonger me and tell me that Jimmy Butler is coming to Detroit. You're out of your mind. You're crazy. There's no way. There's the report that came out today, as of this taping, that Jimmy, his mission has now become to just get out of Miami and that he doesn't care where it is as long as it's not Memphis, has been the communication. It can't be Memphis. It can be any of the other 28 teams in the NBA, which means Washington's on the table, by the way. He just wants to finish his career wherever he goes next. That motherfucker doesn't care about anything anymore. He just wants to get paid. If there's anything that I have ever... It's not a Victory Lap podcast. I don't need to keep doing this, but, you know. Some people try to tell you that it's going to happen, and then it happens. And then there's the piece of me that's like, what if he did come to Detroit? I was doing a little mental exercise. Jimmy Butler in Detroit. What does that do to me? He's the fucking guy who commented that Jimmy shit is so forced, as the entire internet is dunking on this guy. And it doesn't, you know what, man? What would happen if he came to Detroit? I saw a thing that he would, maybe he's going to the Suns because the Suns gave up on Beal. And so there's some kind of contract shit that can happen there. You also look at a team like Utah, who's capital rich right now, because they're still hanging on to their treasure trove that they got from the Rudy Gobert and Donovan Mitchell trades. So you're like, okay. And then you look at Detroit and how favorable of a trade partner they would be because they have $14 million in open cap right now and an open roster spot. You look at a team like Milwaukee, $6-7 million over that second apron. Pat Connaughton probably gone. Boston, I believe, also over that second apron. Where does Detroit fit into all of this is my question. Because at this point, I don't want to, I don't know. I'm kind of beating a dead horse. I've been saying the same shit for like 4 fucking episodes in a row now. Do something. Don't do something. Do something. Don't do something. I can't make heads or tails of the whole thing. I guess I would say No, I don't know. I don't care. I'll see how the whole thing plays out. Something crazy about the bad boys that I don't want to say, man, people don't talk about this because there's no reason why they would. So Isaiah Thomas tears his Achilles in 1993 or 4, tears his Achilles and retires. He's like, that's it. 32 years old. Isaiah Thomas retired because he tore his Achilles. And it's crazy to look at that and then think about the fact that, I don't know, 20 some odd years later, 2019, Kevin Durant tears his Achilles in the NBA Finals, goes into free agency. He was 31. There was a time where that was like a potentially career-ending injury. And so my brain was like, well, is that not a testament to how far modern medicine has come? That a guy can tear his Achilles as a guy in his early 30s, and it is not a career-ending thing anymore. And I was like, well, there's like a 25-year gap between these two, if not a little bit. Yeah, about 25, 26-year gap between these two instances. Yeah, man, that's like a whole guy. No, that's literally me, though, for real. I'm 26, so that's like a me's worth gap between Isaiah Thomas and Kevin Durant tearing their Achilles. Yeah, I would hope that, like, doctors got a little bit smarter and all this shit. The other piece of it, I guess I would be naive if I didn't mention this. It is not as black and white as, like, man, medicine is awesome. You can just rupture your Achilles today and get back on the court in 15 months. Well, it was also just because, I would imagine, the physicality that Isaiah played through versus what Kevin Durant plays through was so much different that the physical toll at that point in Isaiah's career, he was like, what? I cannot do this anymore. The band had also broken up. Lambeer had already retired. I think the only guy at that point who was even still there, maybe Sally was still there. Joe was there the whole time. He stayed there and literally until not even just the end. He was there until damn near 2000. And so, yeah, Isaiah's just like, all right, yeah, it's over. We got our chips and we're out of there. Shout out to the bad boys. I just want something to root for again. And damn it, these Pistons are giving it to me. And when we sit here and we talk about Coach of the Year, if the Cavs stay on their current pace, we talked about this on the most recent episode of the Shoot Around, it will be hard not to give the award to Kenny Atkinson. Because at this rate, the Cavs are going to win 70 games. I don't think that's going to happen. But, okay, they win 65 games. You have to give it to Kenny Atkinson. You just do. And then another mental exercise that well, hold on, let me stay on that point. But I'm looking at a JB Bickerstaff type character who, and in some way these two coaches are married. You know, JB coming over from Cleveland. It's both of their first years with their respective teams. Kenny Atkinson has been out of a head coaching job for a couple years now. Finally gets another gig and is crushing it. He's crushing it. I think it's so cool that the Cavs have this post-LeBron identity for the first time since what? When was the early 90s? When was Mark Price? 35 years ago? The Cavs have an identity that is not just LeBron James. That's pretty cool. And so if they went on to win a championship, like I think, I don't remember if this was said on the shoot around or if we talked about this off the pod, so I apologize if I'm stealing somebody's point that was made. But it's like also the fact that we're not even a decade removed from that happening, from LeBron leaving. They like got shit together pretty quick, all things considered. It didn't take that long for them to get back on the horse. So they bring in Kenny Atkinson, and they're like the best that they've ever been as a franchise, ever, period. It's pretty cool. It's going to be pretty hard not to give that guy, it's going to be hard not to give that guy Coach of the Year. But I'm looking at JB Bickerstaff, and I'm thinking to myself, yeah, it would be hard to give a guy Coach of the Year if and when he only wins, 45 games? That's tough. But when you zoom out on it and you're like, well, but it's the same team that like is pretty different as far as the roster is concerned than they were 365 days ago. The core pieces are the same, but all the shit on the margins is different. To take that team and to have like a plus 30, a damn near plus 30, how do I say this? Like, they're like plus 30 in the win column from today versus a year ago. And culturally, what he's building is, I think, super identifiable. I mean, the guy, every single game, gets picked up on a hot mic saying some crazy shit to the ref, being like, you fucking suck at your job. Give my guys a call. Stripes. Or he's in the locker room talking about whatever. Like, the guy, I truly believe, cares about what is being built in Detroit. And for this to serve as a foundational season, I don't think that we could have gotten a better... man, what's going on with me? Just say it, Nick. What are you trying to say? I don't think there was a better case scenario for this year, which is crazy to say. If I heard me say this 8 months ago when we hired him, I wasn't like mad, but I was like, oh. I think I was more just excited that the witch was dead and that Monty was gone. And I've been reflecting on that a lot lately. I don't know why. Not even in like a, man, remember how down bad we were not that long ago? It's not even like that. I think it's more through the lens of the way that people just believe what they hear on TV and don't watch the thing that they're talking about. So they're not able to think critically about it. So what am I saying? I remember Stephen A. Smith going on First Take and being like, Monty Williams got fucked over. This was the Pistons' fault. This was an organizational failure, not a Monty Williams problem, yada, yada, yada. And so then I put out my video and motherfuckers are just saying the same shit that Stephen A. said. Do you know to this day who repeats any of that? Fucking nobody. Nobody. Because it wasn't true then, and it sure as shit isn't true now, that it wasn't a Monty Williams problem. That guy cashed the fuck out and got out of there. And so that's when you watch these TV shows, you watch these talking heads, you watch a Shams Charania type character, and you just have to try and think as critically as you can about the relationships that these people may have behind the scenes, who they are carrying the water for, and who they are mouthpieces for. You think that Stephen A. Smith isn't just... You think he's just, like, defending Monty Williams after he won fucking 13 games and got fired after becoming the highest paid coach in the history of the NBA? You think he's doing that for no reason? You think there's not a reason for that? There is. But I sure as shit know that nobody is defending him now because he is... I think he's actually, like, coaching his kid, or isn't he doing something like that, which is cool. No shame in that, brother. Happy you're getting paid, because we're happy now, too. We're good now, too. Like, fuck you forever. I'll hate you forever. As a coach, as a dude, though, I don't know. He's probably a cool guy. And it sucks to have this mental relationship with him because we spent so many years as a basketball zeitgeist being like, that Monty Williams guy is just cool. He goes through something horrible with his wife damn near a decade ago that struck a chord in all of us. And I don't really like where I'm going with this, so I'll try to just wrap this up. And then for the perception of him to flip on its head because he just sucked as a coach is too bad. I do think that is too bad. Pistons are potentially a wagon. Are we putting them on wagon watch, ladies and gentlemen? Can I give you guys a quick little take here? A little bite-sized take. Is that a segment idea? Here's okay, I'm figuring this out as I go. Here's a new segment where it's like free samples. It's like you go to, I've never been to a Costco, but you go to a Costco or you go to your local grocery store and they got somebody out in maybe the produce aisle, deli aisle. They got little free samples of some shit that you can try, right? Here's that, but with a take, all right? take one. It's like a take a take, leave a take. Like a take a penny, leave. No, I'm mixing too many ideas together right now. Just stick with the free samples thing. Okay, well, here's a free take. I think the lobbing it to yourself off of the backboard and then dunking it stopped being cool really fast. Because it just happens way more often now. And so I've at least become sort of desensitized to it. I'm bringing this up because Victor Wembanyama did it against the Pacers in Paris. And I was just like, oh, wow. Cool. The guy who's 7'7" lobbed it to himself off of the... Was the video cool? I guess. You know? Yeah, I guess. But I'm thinking, like, what year was it in the finals when LeBron did it? Was it game 1 of 2018? At the very least, that may have been the year that he did it. But I remember LeBron doing it, and Twitter went fucking berserk in real time. Like a holy shit meltdown. And now, I swear to God, it happens once a week. It's still cool. It's still cool. This doesn't count. But how many times did Chris Paul in transition lob some shit off the backboard to Blake or DeAndre? I don't know how I remember that. How I remember Lob City. I might romanticize it, I think, too much. Because I think if I went back, I think I hated them. I don't really remember. It feels like it was so long ago now. And the way that those three main guys, the way that their careers played out, they played out in such a way that I honestly feel crazy when I say those three main guys, lumping DeAndre Jordan into that. But I can't forget what it was. You know what I mean? I would be disingenuous if I said that of course he was part of that. I'm not going to say that he wasn't. But when we were just a few years away from him being in the clean sweep that the Nets pulled off with Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and DeAndre Jordan. The fuck was DeAndre Jordan doing in that? Shut up, Woj. DeAndre Jordan is not in this. And I look, man, as I'm saying that out loud too, do you remember how earth-shattering it was when the Nets did that? Like how genuinely shocking that was. Let me talk this through. Was it more shocking than the Clippers thing? Well, not to bring it back to the Clippers, but the Kawhi and Paul George thing, I don't know, man. That might take the cake. Okay, sure. Let me blindly rank. Well, not blindly rank, but let's just off the cuff, let's do a power ranking of the most, like, what the hell? Things that have happened in the last, like, 15 years in the NBA. I don't think, is this a take? How crazy is the decision in retrospect? It's pretty fucking crazy. It's pretty crazy. Nick, don't go there. It was pretty wild when that was happening. I remember the moment live. We were up north at our grandparents' house, and we were watching the decision live. And I'm going to take my talents to South Beach. How fucking crazy was that? Why was that televised? Why? I know why, but why? You know what I mean? That's insane. Like, the motherfucker was a top 100 recruit for ESPN, and he had the school's hats out in front of him, and he put a hat on. He's like, I'm going to Ohio State. But he's picking the Miami Heat. That's insane. Kevin Durant was just like, I'm going to write an article. I'm going to write an article in the Players Tribune being like, my next chapter, which is where I'm going with this next, is like, I don't know where the decision ranks, but I think the KD thing is which is, well, no, okay, here's a different thing. Just scrap that idea. We're doing something different now. And I'll stay with this one. I was going to throw, by the way, Carmelo going to the Knicks. I remember that being like a, whoa, but you know what I mean? It's kind of like a footnote to all of the other shit that happened. Let's power rank instead all of the Kevin Durant moves of his life. Okay, so Golden State has to be number one. That shock was that will always be number one. I think for the rest of my life, unless like Devin Booker gets traded to Detroit or LeBron gets traded to the fucking Warriors, it's going to be hard to top the genuine shock of Kevin Durant going to the Warriors because of all of the context surrounding it. 73-9, the Warriors had just beat the Thunder. We know. it's the context that made it even crazier than it was. So that's number one. And then it's like, so what's after that? Is it the Nets, or is it him getting traded to the Suns? Because the Suns thing was close to rivaling. Yeah, okay, maybe this is the take. Kevin Durant getting traded to the Suns was kind of like when Kawhi and PG went to the Clippers, only in that they happened in the middle of the night. Although the Clippers thing was straight up like 3 a.m. The Suns thing was like, I think it was like midnight Central Time. Like, it wasn't that crazy, but it was still super late. But it was like a whoa. You know what I mean? I think that's 2. No. Because the Nets was Kyrie. And it was like, we thought he could go to the Knicks. Oh, yeah, that's true, Nick. As I said that out loud, that was weird. My brain was on like autopilot. I didn't know that I was about to say that. I forgot the piece of it where, 5 years ago at this point? Well, 6-7 years ago at this point. We spent so long being like, the Knicks are going to get Zion, and then they're going to get Kyrie, and then they're going to get KD. And they got fucking none of that. And then KD and Kyrie ended up going to the Nets. And it's like, well, who's laughing now? The Nets are like the worst team, the most unserious team in the league right now. They're not even fucking trying. They're having actual guys in uniform sitting behind the bench so that Ben Simmons and Bogdanović can get their spot on the end. You fucking losers. What is this? And then the Knicks are like maybe I don't know, one of the 5 best teams in the NBA right now. Probably like the 4th best team in the NBA right now. Karl-Anthony Towns, a sneaky MVP candidate. How's that one been working out? Pretty damn well. Josh Hart racking up his little bullshit 10 points, 10 rebounds, 10 assists, triple doubles. Love those. Because it's not flashy. He just goes out and does shit for 40 minutes. And he just like stuffs the stat sheet. It's awesome. That's worked out super well for them. Fuck Zion. Fuck KD. Fuck Kyrie. I'm not saying this. The Knicks are saying, well, okay, I am Nick. The New York Knicks are saying this. Not me. How did we get here? How did we get to this point? What was I trying to power rank earlier? I kind of want to go back to that. Oh, yeah. Okay, let's circle back to that. The decision has to be number one. This is if you're watching this today, I'll put the decision up here at number 1. And then as a B, I'm starting to lose myself a little bit, so I can't imagine what's happening to you at home. Is it time to punt on this? Is it 4th down? Did we get to Are we in like a 4th and 8 situation from our own 30-yard line? And like it's just time to kneel this thing out, and you know what I mean. I think I've run this one into the ground a little bit. Speaking of running shit into the ground, I workshopped this the other day. There was something to be said about the fact that Hellen Keller was like the equivalent to like a human Roomba, because she couldn't see and she couldn't hear. And so the interior decorating in that fucking place must have been a disaster. It must have been she's bumping into shit. She's just sitting in a corner. And so the bit that we were workshopping was like, what if you go back in time and you're in Hellen Keller's room and you set her shit up like it's a pinball machine. And if she and hold on and stay with me. If she manages to like get into like a specific corner or like a part of the room that like, there's no way she's going to get there. She can't see and she can't hear. She doesn't know what the fuck's going on. You get like 50,000 points, something crazy like, whoa, ×2 multiplier. And then she just starts sprinting around the room while she's like, I don't know, speaking in like hieroglyphics or something. Did she write a book? Can I be honest with you guys? I gotta tell you this right now. I have made some Hellen Keller jokes in this. I don't know what she did. Why don't we use this as this is a news program. I like to think of the Coping Hour as sort of like a digital news agency. We also try to be educational. here. And so for those of you out there like myself who I don't know what Hellen Keller did except be deaf and blind. Let's ask Siri, because Siri is the highest form of artificial intelligence that we have in our culture. Hey Siri, what did Hellen Keller do? Okay, Hellen Keller was an American author, disability rights advocate, political activist, and lecturer. How do you advocate for... She had a disease? Hellen Keller was an American author, disability rights advocate, blah, 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 blah. She was born... I didn't know she was from Alabama. She lost her sight and her hearing after a bout of illness when she was 19 months... Oh, man. She's 19 months old. She then communicated primarily using home signs until the age of 7, when she met her first teacher and lifelong companion, Anne Sullivan. Sullivan taught Keller language, including reading and writing. Wait, so she could talk? Wait, she died in the 60s? I thought she was like... I thought she was the fucking... like Teddy Roosevelt. I thought she died like 100 years ago. She died in 1968. But that's insane. Wait, so if she could talk, then she's just Stevie Wonder. Everybody talks about Stevie Wonder's blind. He's not blind. He's lying. That's not true. You know, there's something to be said about these motherfuckers and lying. Okay, so Hellen Keller could talk. She could probably see, too, honestly. Stevie Wonder very famously can see. Some of you out there could be like, well, Nick, he's not totally blind. There are certain levels of blindness. Bullshit. He could see. And it's the same as when Shohei Ohtani is like, I can't speak English. I can't. Nope. Can't do it. And then he does, and he speaks perfect English. And you're going to be like, well, Nick, maybe he's only practiced certain phrases, and he's only comfortable saying certain things or speaking at... Shut up. How about that? Sounds like he speaks English to me. And so he's having his translator around probably for fucking tax purposes. You think this guy deferred... I don't know, $680 million for no reason at all? This guy's, well, you know what's funny? I was about to say, he's probably got this translator doing some weird shit off the books. And then I remembered Ipe Mizuhara was kind of doing that. Are there any other historical figures that I would like to take the opportunity to make fun of while we're at it? Man, I don't know. You go down the list. The list, as if there's a list of just historical figures. What the hell was the Martin Luther guy all upset about? The German one. The guy who posted the list on the door of the church. What did he do? You know what, folks? I like to think of I don't think I've ever said this before, but I like to think of the Coping Hour as sort of like a digital news agency. And so I think it's important that from time to time we get educational. So why don't we ask Siri, the most intelligent form of, artificial intelligence that we have in our culture today? What was Martin Luther's deal? What was he all mad about? Hey, Siri, what did the German Martin Luther get mad about? Fuck, I fucked that up. Siri's gonna have no idea what I just asked. Oh, wow. It says, no, it had it. Oh, this is such bad podcasting. Am I just now realizing that? Hey, hold on. I got to re-ask Siri. It's an educational show, and I have to do this. Hey, Siri, what was the German Martin Luther all mad about? Martin Luther was an Augustinian monk who in 1517 was so fed up with the Catholic Church that he nailed a list of 95 observations called the 95 Thesis to the door of a church in Germany. Is that cool? Damn, this guy was a fucking unit. He was frustrated by the greed and corruption he saw in the church, particularly by reports that some in positions of power were taking large sums of money in exchange for absolving sinners of their mistakes. I don't know what this word is, included a question of ideas for debate. Okay, this is all boo, who cares, shut up. Sounds like it was very noble work, honestly. Something about those damn Martin Luthers, getting everybody all riled up. Although the MLK thing, like the real one, The real one that we acknowledge in America. What is that like? Well, I'm pivoting on. I was going to do a whole bunch of shit about how the erasure of, that's another thing, actually, we were talking about on the shoot-around, is the erasure of the violence that happened during civil rights, the civil rights movement here in America, and how that's just kind of been, like, swept under the rug. That, like, America was actually effective at, I don't want to say committing political violence, but at least pushing back against authority. And it's like the textbooks would rather you forget that happened. What is it like in Germany, though? You got a Martin Luther Day? Got a Martin Luther King Day? Or it's just Martin Luther? I think I just looked it up and I didn't even read what his fucking name is. I have no idea. You guys got a day for him? You go to church? Go to Sunday service? Speaking of Sunday service, so 47 got inaugurated the other day. Re-inaugurated, I should say. And boy, oh boy, I had it on. I had the Reuters feed on. For those of you listen to the show for a while, you know that we love Reuters around here. It's like Reuters, the Telegraph. Some of you have given me some pushback on that before. Oh, Nick, it's owned by a super right-leaning fucking conglomerate. Okay. It's fine. I think it's good to read different news. You know, I don't only want to read the news that I know for a fact is slanted in the way that I think and feel. You know what I mean? I want to see what other, so even if that's true, okay, that's fine. Unless it's like the New York Post, because this shit's not real. I would love to, do you think we could invent a guy? Because this guy does not exist. Let's invent a guy right now. It's like create a player, but like just a guy. I don't think a woman would be dumb enough to do this. I don't. But the guy who is like, he only gets his shit from the New York Post and like the Daily, not the Daily Beast, the Daily Mail and like the Sun. No, that guy definitely exists. That guy definitely exists and he's on Facebook. That's where it is. Yeah, I was watching the Reuters feed of the inauguration. I was going to flip around to a bunch of different channels, but I was like, I'm going to get the same coverage. It doesn't matter. They're not doing talking head pundit shit right now. They're just like showing us the ceremony. And Joe Biden did something hilarious. So they're like, we're about 5 minutes away from Donald Trump putting his hand on the Bible. And they have to scramble to put up like a scrolling text on the bottom of the screen to be like, Joe Biden just pardoned his entire family. Joe Biden is literally sitting next to Donald Trump and he's fucking pushing through. They dropped the news that he pardoned his entire family seconds before Donald Trump becomes president. His family members outside of Hunter Biden, who he had already previously pardoned, haven't done anything wrong. Have not been convicted of any crimes or anything like that. But Joe Biden was just like, I'm going to cover my bases on this one. Just to, you know what I mean? Just going to chill on this one. And then you talk about like pardoning people. So all those January 6ers are out of jail. All of them. Except there's one woman who's not. She didn't accept the pardon. I didn't know you could do that. She was like, she's only serving like 60 days, maybe 90 days for like obstruction. And she was like, no, I need to stay in here. She's like, what I did wasn't cool. And I was like, that's nice, I guess. That's maybe a good, nice little reflection by you. But even the QAnon shaman only served like 15 months of the 40 or whatever that he was supposed to serve. He got out of there. I think he's been out for a while, though. I don't think that's recent. That happened a while ago, I think. So all those people are out. There was one guy in Florida who got out. He was in jail for like January 6th shit. And then he went back to jail this morning. Gun charges. That's as specific as they got. It was gun charges. But he had also had on his rap sheet like a battery charge, like domestic violence, some other gun shit, probably like racketeering. Also, the guy was from Florida. Don't know if I said that yet. So like, you know what I mean? Yeah. So all those people. And so I'm just like, okay, so you actually followed through on the promise. If you're Donald Trump, you did pardon all these people that were convicted of crimes on January 6th. But like, what about Joe Exotic? What about the Tiger King? That guy's got to be fucking furious right now. What the hell? I've been talking about, if I'm Joe Exotic right now, I'm sitting in a prison cell for the last however many years. I've been writing letters to Donald Trump. I've been, whatever form of communication that I have, I've been trying to get out the word that, son, I'm trying to get out of here. Free me. Donald Trump's like, hell no. No. Joe Exotic's still in prison. Still in jail. Pretty boring inauguration, I would say, for the most part. The actual ceremony itself, which I thought was good. You don't want those things to be too eventful. I think the best case scenario is that it is kind of boring and it just sort of becomes something that's on in the background. The funniest thing that Trump said was that we're going to turn the Gulf of Mexico into the Gulf of America. It's pretty funny. It's a good line. Really riles up the uneducated and stupid. It's funny. I a little nasal exhale out of me. Oh, that was pretty funny. We're going to turn the... I'm not going to do it. But the real meat and potatoes came after the fact. And the TLDR, you have seen this and you have heard about this. Elon Musk did the richest man in the world. May or may not, but like just definitely did do a Hitler salute. And if you're out there and you're going to be like, no, he was just doing a... I give my heart to you. I doubt it. Because I think a few things can be true. Like, he's dumb. He's such a smart guy. Sure. But he's also, that guy was, I don't know if he was on fucking ketamine. I don't know what he was rolling off of. Elon was on some shit. Even Bezos, like, had a weird sort of vibe about him. You watched his eyes and he was all over the place. Eyes all over the place. And so, okay, so Elon does a Hitler salute, and the internet's reaction to this has been, on Reddit, it's been to ban the use of Twitter links, or X links, the everything app, as it were. No more Twitter links in hundreds, potentially thousands of subreddits. They're like, we're going dark on Twitter. There's no reason to use these. I haven't really been able to put my finger on like why this rubs me the wrong way, but I just think it does. I think it is a little bit black square pilled when all the George Floyd stuff was happening and people post the black squares, and really all that it became was like performative activism, which I think a lot of left-leaning people, at least they identify as left-leaning, but they actually just do shit for like social points. This isn't fucking China. We have a social score. Fucking libs. And then in doing all those black squares, you're not actually conveying a message, and you're burying resources for people and information for people who actually need it. And so, okay, so you're going to go dark on Twitter, on Reddit. Oh, okay. No more links. No more Twitter links. Okay. I get that maybe people are now waking up to the idea that there are some people in the American government who may or may not think that fascism is cool. Go back to sleep. Because if you think that, like, you're too late at this point, you know what I mean? That's the part that bothers me, is if you think that that's the path that America is actually going down, you think that this is going to be what stops it. You think that this is, you know what I mean? And you think that, oh, well, if we just take all of our shit over to this other social platform, you think that those algorithms aren't controlled by like the same circle of people? You know what I mean? Oh, this is the good social platform. Our data and our algorithm is secure over here. It is? Wow. I'd love to sign up for that. That sounds awesome. Everybody jumping over to, we're going to do a 2-week blackout of Instagram and Meta and Reddit and Twitter and all this shit. Yeah? And then you're going to, what, come back after 2 weeks? What the delete all of that shit if that's what you're going to do. This shit's not real. It's not real at all. And so that's why, you know, you talk about the political theater of like the TikTok stunt that got pulled and how that was like literally never going anywhere. It was, you talk about like I don't know. I think I need to show people more grace, because I think of myself as somebody who doesn't know that much about what's going on in the world. But then I see people who thought that TikTok was actually going to get banned. And I was like, what is this? You know what I mean? So Elon Musk doing that. Yeah. Not using Twitter isn't going to stop fascism. It's not going to do that. So then the question is like, well, how do you stop fascism in 2025? You kill the internet? No more internet for people? Yeah, you can't do that. Can't do that. How do you stop it? More definitive actions. Louder actions. Probably that. And that was the inauguration, folks. Speaking of like the government though, and the private sector and private security and all that. So I mentioned a couple episodes ago that I've been playing a lot of GTA Online. Well, not only that, now I got bored of gambling, believe it or not, in that game. I kept losing money on horses, and I was like, all right, well. And so then I just started playing the single player. I started playing just the story mode because I haven't done an actual playthrough of that game in I don't know how many years. But when it first came out, the first couple of years between PS3, PS4, and I don't think I've done a playthrough on my PS5. I did it probably like 5 times, so I knew it like the back of my hand. I just apparently forgot 90% of the story. This is one of those rare instances where, usually I show people some grace, and I try not to do spoilers because it's like, well, I hope that, I don't want to. But at this point, and everybody who wanted to play that game has fucking played GTA 5. I would love to. Let's talk about inventing a guy. The guy who's like, I've never played I'm in my 20s. I've never played GTA 5. Never done the story mode before. That's on you. It's on you, brother. But I guess I just forgot about how much that story revolved around working with the government and also against it. And the against it part makes sense. It's a Grand Theft Auto game. But I guess I just forgot about how much of it was just like working with the FBI and working against the CIA and like a private security firm, which is cool. There's actually some good commentary in that game too, which I think as a kid was like not paying attention to it. I remember the craziest thing about I don't want to say that out loud. I don't want to say that into a microphone. It's a good story though. I haven't figured out who I'm going to kill at the end. Probably neither of them. I think I'm going to do secret option C, where you don't kill anybody and you just kill the FBI agent. I think that's what it is. And then you just get to keep playing as the rest of them. I've been doing all of this, obviously, in anticipation. Well, not in anticipation of GTA 6. Let's be honest. I'm just bored. Need something to do. And so I've been playing it at like 30-minute increments at a time whenever I have the chance. But yeah, GTA 6, man. Almost there. Should be almost there. I reckon we'll get something soon. That's been the scuttlebutt, is that we're going to get something soon. Because Take-Two Interactive has like a shareholder call or something, or like a quarterly earnings or something coming up here at the beginning of February. So people anticipate that there will be a trailer around that date so that there can be something concrete shown to, not that Take-Two really needs the clarification that GTA 6 will be the highest grossing game in the history of anything. Spotify listeners, question for you guys today. I actually had a really good one earlier. I don't remember what it was. Let's do this instead. Spotify listeners, remember all that shit we were talking about earlier? Power ranking all of Kevin Durant's moments. You want to do that? You guys want to do that for me? In some order, the moments that we're going to be ranking: Kevin Durant going to Golden State, going to Brooklyn, going to Phoenix. Those are the 3. Rank them in terms of like the wow, in terms of the shock factor. The how did it make you feel? Well, I don't need to know how it made you feel. Your ranking will tell me how it made you feel. For some reason, I think it stinks that by the end of his career, he will have played for one more team. And the reason I say that stinks is because what? Seattle, Oklahoma City, Golden State, Brooklyn, Phoenix, that's already 5 teams. How is it possible that a guy of Kevin Durant's caliber has played for 5 different teams? I think sneaky, it's crazy that LeBron has played for 3. Is that me? I think that's wild. A guy like that. And it's like, well, I don't know, Nick. The NBA is not as lifer of a sport as maybe it is in your head. Yeah, it's not. It's really not. Because it's like, yeah, Tim Duncan. Yep. Kobe. Uh-huh. Dirk? Yep. Steph? Probably. Draymond? Probably. Klay Thompson? No. Nope. Didn't happen with Klay. The Steph thing, I don't know where we're at with that. We haven't heard those Charlotte rumors in a while. Remember that? Remember when, like, all the time we would be like, well, not all the time, but after they won their last ring and they have, like, stunk or been like, anytime there's been a lull, there's a report that, I don't know, Steph could seek to end his career in Charlotte. I haven't heard that in a while. I haven't seen it. Hasn't come across my desk. Oh, shit, I didn't read any emails today. I guess I was just on a roll talking about, I guess technically making fun of a disabled woman. I guess when I frame it that way, it's not very kind. But I hope when I look back at the tape, maybe I should do that. I hope I do a nasal exhale. I hope I laugh. And then it's fine. As long as I do a little, then it's fucking fine. Who cares? Alrighty, folks. If you are listening to this on Spotify, your question was about the Kevin Durant moments. And if you're listening to this on, I haven't figured out how to do the Apple Podcast thing yet. Like what the sign off is for Apple Podcasts. I'll just say like, what's up, Apple Podcasts? What's up? If you're watching this on YouTube, be sure to leave a like, subscribe. Nice little comment for the algorithm. Make sure to keep primary control in check. And I will catch you guys in the next one.